Every now and then, a single photograph comes along that does way more than just capture a moment. It can completely change how we see everything. Today, we're going to dive into the story of one of those images, a grainy, kind of blurry picture that became one of the most powerful statements ever made about who we are. And those are the words, of course, from the brilliant astronomer Carl Sagan. He gave a voice to what is, without a doubt, one of the most distant portraits of Earth ever taken. It's a picture that doesn't show our world as this big, majestic globe, but as a tiny, almost fragile point of light. So how did that happen? How did this little speck become so iconic? Well, that's exactly what we're going to unpack today. The story behind this image, let me tell you, it's an amazing tale of vision, a ton of perseverance, and maybe just a little bit of cosmic luck. Okay, so the first thing you've got to know is this. This photograph was never supposed to happen. It wasn't in the original mission plan at all. This wasn't about crunching scientific data. It was the result of a philosophical mission, an idea championed by the one and only Carl Sagan. See, the pale blue dot wasn't a standalone picture. It was just one small piece of a much, much bigger idea. Sagan's dream was to use the Voyager 1 spacecraft, right as it was leaving our solar system for good, to turn its cameras around and take one last group photo of the planets, a family portrait of our cosmic home. And that's the key right there. This was not about science, at least not in the usual sense. This was for us. The whole idea was to capture an image that would hold up a mirror to all of humanity, to show us just how small and how interconnected we really are on this grand cosmic stage. But as you can imagine, an idea this out there wasn't exactly an easy sell. In fact, it took nearly 10 years of fighting to make it a reality. It was a real showdown between Sagan's incredible vision and, well, the very practical, very cautious bureaucracy at NASA. And right here, this is the heart of the conflict. On one side, you have Sagan and his team who wanted to teach us all a lesson in humility. And on the other, you have NASA engineers who were, rightly concerned. Pointing Voyager's super delicate cameras back towards the sun, even from billions of kilometers away, risked frying the sensors for good. It was a massive gamble. Now, this wasn't just Sagan's fight alone. It really took a village. You had scientists like Carolyn Porco and Candy Hansen working out all the technical gymnastics to make it possible. But in the end, it all came down to NASA Administrator Richard Truly, a former astronaut himself, who made the final, gutsy call. He decided that the perspective was worth the risk. All right, so they finally get the green light. But now the real challenge begins, actually pulling this off. Taking a portrait of our tiny world from the absolute edge of the solar system. So, on Valentine's Day 1990, of all days, the final commands were sent rocketing through space. Voyager 1, which had been flying away from us for more than a decade, got its orders to turn its gaze back home one last time. And I mean, just try to wrap your head around this distance. 6 billion kilometers. That is so mind-bogglingly far that light from our sun, moving at the fastest speed anything can travel, took over 5.5 hours just to reach the spacecraft. From that far out, our entire world, everyone you've ever loved, everything you've ever known, was squeezed into just 12% of a single pixel. It's not that the photo is blurry, it's that our whole world was just that shockingly, unbelievably small. So the spacecraft's narrow-angle camera snapped 3 pictures using different color filters. Those were later combined on Earth to make the final image. And then, just 34 minutes after taking our picture, Voyager's cameras were shut down for good. To save power for the long, lonely journey ahead, it was literally its last act. A final, beautiful goodbye. Okay, but what about that gorgeous sunbeam, right? The one our little planet seems to be floating in? Well, in what has to be the most perfect example of scientific poetry, it's actually a glitch. It's just scattered sunlight bouncing around inside the camera lens. A happy accident that gave the photo its most profound and unforgettable feature. So look, the technical side of this is just mind-blowing, but the real power of the pale blue dot, that's in its legacy, in what it taught us and continues to teach us about ourselves. You have to see this photo as part of a bigger story, right? It's really the third in a legendary trilogy of Earth portraits. First, we had Earthrise, which showed us our planet as this fragile oasis in the dark. Then came the blue marble, which gave us this feeling of a unified, borderless world. But the pale blue dot, it took it to a whole new level, delivering this deeply humbling message of our cosmic insignificance.
And nobody, I mean nobody, said it better than Sagan himself. He called this image a challenge to our imagined self-importance. Just think about it. Every war, every king, every bit of joy and suffering in human history, all of it played out on a stage so tiny it's barely even there.
And the image's story is still being written. In 2020, for its 30th birthday, NASA engineers took the original data and gave it a modern makeover. They used new software to rebalance the colors and clean up the noise, giving us this stunning, clearer version of our tiny home.
And get this, the story doesn't end there, not even close. After taking that photo, Voyager 1 just kept on going. In 2012, it officially left our solar system and entered interstellar space. And it's still out there, sailing through the void, sending back whispers from the great beyond.
And to really blow your mind, think about this upcoming milestone, late 2026. The spacecraft will be one light day away. That means a radio signal traveling at the speed of light will take a full 24 hours just to get to it, and another 24 hours for any reply to get back to us. That's how far our reach has extended. But in the end, this whole thing wasn't meant to make us feel hopeless or small. It was about responsibility. It was a call to action. As Sagan so perfectly put it, it highlights our duty to be kinder to each other and to protect and cherish this pale blue dot. And that, of course, leaves us with one final, pretty heavy question. It's been more than 30 years now since we saw ourselves this way for the first time. So, have we really learned its lesson? Have we truly grasped the message of humility and unity that this tiny speck of light was trying to teach us?